Well, it's a beautiful sunny day here in Southern Oregon, and it's getting hot outside. So that means it's time to plant our most favorite plant, the tomato plant. We're gonna be doing tomatoes and cucumbers today. We'll be doing the square foot gardening method. I'll show you some tips and tricks along the way. So stick around, because you're not gonna wanna miss this. So this is a 2 foot by 8 foot square foot bed. Each square becomes its own planting zone. The idea is highly efficient in small spaces, and honestly, it works beautifully. You can plant using one of these if you want to. You can lay out strings or a grid for 1 foot sections. However you want to do it is up to you. I don't like having strings and grids all laid out in my bed. I like to be able to kind of move around it freely and work through it. So I actually found this online. You can actually order these from Amazon, but I have a 3D printer, so I printed out my own unit here. I have a Bamboo A1 printer, and it's a multicolor printer. So you print out 4 sections, and then you can actually glue it together. What this does is it's actually meant for square foot gardening, so it allows you to be able to put it down. You have your square foot here, and then you can plant out your seeds according to what kind of plant it is. Like if it's radishes, you can do like 16 of them. So you're doing the reds right here, or if it's like a tomato plant, the yellow right in the middle, only 1 per square foot, and that's what we can be doing today. So what we can do is we just kind of take this thing right here, and we can push it down, and it actually marks out our grid right here for our tomato plants. So we can just do that across here like this, and now we have it all laid out. So now all we have to do is just plant the tomatoes in here. Now what I want to do is I like to give my tomatoes more room. You can do 1 tomato per square foot if you want to. I don't like doing that. I like to give them a little bit of room to roam. If you want to do it that way, you can. If you just want to kind of be able to make sure you prune up your tomato plants if they're indeterminate, to be able to prune them up, to be able to stay within those guidelines and not go over all the place like a jungle. Now, if they're determinate tomato plants, you do not want to prune them, because by doing that, you're just going to be losing fruit. Determinate, they're going to ripen all at the same time. And so by pruning them, you're going to actually end up losing a lot of fruit that way, and you don't want to do that. We'll be planting these tomatoes on the north side of the bed. The sun is over this direction, so we want to be planting them right here, so that way they'll grow up and not be shading out anything behind it. So we can plant things in front here still, and they get plenty of sunlight. Tomatoes like to be dug down deep, so we're going to be digging a deep hole here. The only thing different about this is that I actually had a chicken coop here for a couple of years, and so this soil underneath this bed is really rich in nitrogen. So, and I don't want the tomatoes to get down there and then start tapping into all that nitrogen and then not start producing tomatoes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dig down, but I'm actually gonna add in some compost right here to the bottom of the hole and try to keep that separated, the tomato plant separated from the actual compost down there with the fertilizer, to prevent that from hopefully not happening. So that's what we're gonna be doing with these guys. Also, when I actually did these raised beds, I put in this BioLive by Down to Earth fertilizer. This is really good for starting transplants and whatnot into your bed. Now, what I did is I actually inoculated these beds with this fertilizer. So this bed has actually been fertilized already, and then it's been watered down multiple times to keep it moist, to actually start adding life to the soil, to feed the microbes in the soil. And I did that probably about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So that's been breaking down over this time before I even started planting the tomato plants. So we have that right in the bed. What we're gonna be doing though is we're gonna be adding in some bone meal. This is gonna be a 3-15-0, and so this is high on the phosphorus, and it's also gonna provide, this is actually 18% calcium. So we're gonna be adding a lot of calcium to these tomato plants because that's what they love. So we don't hopefully get blossom end rot and other problems with our fruit ripening. And so we're gonna be putting some of this in the hole, as also with some mycorrhizal fungi. We're gonna be putting that to inoculate the roots before I actually put them in the hole, to help that out too. This is things I like to use, and who doesn't like a fungi, right? So we're putting that in there. So we're gonna be starting off with digging our holes. So right in the middle here, that's where we're gonna start doing our digging. We already have our grids laid out. I'm gonna be spacing mine out every other grid. So I'll leave a grid between my tomato plants to give them more space. That's just what I like to do. You can put them closer together if you want to, that's fine. But this is my way of doing it, to give them more room to breathe. because you know these tomatoes just like to grow. So we're gonna plant. I'm gonna dig a big hole here. We're gonna put them down in here. Okay, so we got that. We're gonna be doing our compost here for these guys. Now, normally you wouldn't have to do this. Of course, you'd want to add compost to your garden every time you transplant or whatever. But like I said, because I have that really nutrient-rich soil down there, I'm going to be putting kind of like a barrier between it and this and the tomato plant to hopefully help it not do that, not go crazy with the nitrogen. Okay, so this tomato plant right here, you see we got leaves down here. What we want to do is we want to take off, I'm going to take off these bottom suckers here, because we're going to plant this down deep, and along right here it has little hairs on this tomato plant on the stem, and this will actually turn into roots when you actually plant it. So this will actually become a root system, which will make this plant even stronger. So we want to go down deeper than what we have right in the pot right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down like this. I'm going to take this branch off here as well. Okay. Turn it over. Okay. So these plants have been in these pots for too long. Our gardening season here was kind of wacky. I was trying to get them in the ground as soon as possible, but the weather kept on going hot and cold, hot and cold. And you want to get them on the ground when you know the soil temperature is around 50, 60 degrees for tomatoes, and you want to make sure your nights are not below typically 50 degrees in temperature, air temperature. Tomatoes don't like it. So we're going to go ahead and put this down in there. But what we're going to do first, as I need to, put the mycorrhizal, and I'm going to be using the bone meal. Now this is not an exact science. I'm not measuring out an exact amount. I am just sprinkling in some bone meal here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some of the mycorrhizal on here, down to the hole, just like that. And so we're going to go ahead and dig that in, and we're going to cover it up. We're going to have a nice deep root system, just like that. We're going to take these, we'll put them in the composter. So you always want to compost your greens, have good compost later. We're just going to gently pack it in a little bit. Okay, and there you go. That tomato is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these plants down the row here, skipping every foot. And when I do that, I'll get back to you and we'll go on from there. Okay, so we're going to be planting our seeds here. I have two varieties of tomato seeds that I'm going to be planting. One's called the Oregon Spring Tomato, and the other one is called, let's see what it says here. So we got Oregon Spring, and we have a, if I pronounce this right, Stupis tomato. Both are supposed to be a cold variant tomato, able to hold colder temperatures, and they're fast producing tomato. So they're going to ripen, the fruit's going to ripen fast and produce fast compared to like most of the other tomato plants. So I figured, why not give it a shot, plant a couple of these and just see how they do, just for fun. I always like kind of experimenting and trying something new every year. So we're going to be doing that. And what I want to do is I already got my little grids kind of laid out for my little spacer here, and I have my center spot here where my hole's going to be, right about there. So in these spots right here, I'm just going to pull back a little bit, and I want to do is I want to be able to kind of get back in here, and I'm going to pull back soil out of this, and I'm going to actually add the bone meal in there, because I want to have the bone meal in there as the plant starts to grow, and it'll give it time to start breaking down, because all these fertilizers that I've added today, these are not bioavailable right away. These are going to feed the microorganisms in the soil And so it takes time to break down, like after a few weeks basically, to actually start releasing those nutrients to the plant. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this back. I'm going to add the bone meal in there, so as the plant starts to grow, it will actually, as it's breaking down, it will start to be able to have that bone meal in there and the nutrients to start helping it grow and thrive as it starts producing fruit. And what we're going to do after we get done putting these in here, we're actually going to water them in with some fish emulsion, which is a 5-1-1, and that's bioly available right away. So that we can actually water them in, and that's going to give them a nice little dose of nutrients right off the get-go to actually have something to start feeding on right away. Now, like I said, this bed was planted. I set the bed up a couple of weeks ago, and I already did the inoculation with the BioLive, which is a 5-4-2. So it's already been breaking down, so there's probably some nutrients already in this soil, but we're gonna go ahead and just water in with the fish emulsion. I like doing that with all transplants. It just helps to do the transplanting. It helps with transplant shock as well. So let's get started here. We're gonna pull back some soil, nothing crazy. And we're just gonna add a little bit of the bone meal into it. And we're just gonna mix it in kind of, okay? So now we've got some bone meal in there. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put the soil back. I'm gonna take my tomato plant. This one's the Oregon Spring. And I'm gonna plant 2 seeds. I'm gonna do it right here in the middle, about a 1/4 inch deep. We're just gonna plant them right in there. We'll just gently cover them up, just like that. Real easy. That's why I like planting with seeds. I mean, it doesn't get any simpler than that, right? So we're gonna do the same thing over here. Pull back some soil. Add the bone meal. You have to go crazy with it. Cover that up. Put a little hole right here in the middle. And we're gonna add the stupis. So we're gonna add a couple of seeds into that hole, just 2 right there. Cover them up. We're done. That's it. We just gotta water it in now. Real simple, right? All right, so now it's time for cucumbers. So we're gonna be sowing, I got 4 squares I'm gonna be sowing in here. Each square is gonna have 2 cucumber plants planted inside of it. And we're gonna be doing the Garden Sweet cucumber and the Metke Pale Armenian cucumber. We're gonna be planting 4 plants of each one of these seeds. So like this one right here, we could probably do maybe the Armenians, and then over here we can do the sweet cucumbers over here. And so you can use some of this if you want to. It doesn't have to be, rocket science here. I mean, you can just kind of space out equally if you want to and call that good. Or if you wanted to, you can use this and then have your holes or something. If you want to use these squares to plant out, you could do that. I mean, in this case, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and just kind of separate them and plant them out like this. You're gonna want to plant them about 1 inch deep for your cucumbers. Now again, fertilizers. These beds have already been fertilized, okay? So I don't have to fertilize the beds. I already have a mixture of compost and fertilizer, the BioLive that I actually use throughout here. So we're all good to go. So 1 inch down, and you want the soil to be about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Cucumbers like it hot. They like a warm soil. They like to have warm feet, not cold feet. So I'm gonna be doing 2 seeds per each hole I'm going to sow. And the good thing about the cucumber seeds is that they're big enough. They're easy to manage, They're not dinky like a little radish seed or something. So just do 2. I got 3. So like this, that's it. So we're gonna push them down about 1 inch. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then just cover them up. And that's it. That's how easy it is. Because since the plants are not even germinated, we're not having to worry about really doing like fertilizer or anything like that. We're just trying to get them to germinate. Also, there's a trick too you can do with seeds that require clipping the seed or soaking them for like 24 hours before you actually sow them to help them actually germinate faster. I'm not in a huge rush here. I like to go the easy route for the most part, but you could clip off the little ends of the end of the seed here and actually do that or soak them. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna plant them straight. So we got those 2 done. Coming over here again for the sweets. 2 per square. That's what we're doing. I'm just going to plant 2 seeds per each hole, and I'm going to thin it out to whichever one's going to be the strongest, the most dominant plant in the end. So when they start coming up, after they're probably going maybe like a couple inches tall, I'll see which one actually is the most dominant plant, and I'll keep that one and get rid of the other one. That's it. We're done. So next up, let's talk about trellises. These are trellises I made years ago. They're made out of electrical conduit, and the 90s or electrical conduit 90s are actually meant for this pipe. You can get these at like hardware stores. I got mine from Grover's, but they'll last forever basically because they're all metal, so they're not going to like rust out. They're galvanized, and so you can use them over and over again. But they're lightweight. You can take them, pick them up from another bed, and just place them wherever you want to place them, where you're growing. So it allows you to kind of modularly be able to move things around, and which is really good for a small garden like what I have here. You always have to be kind of being able to kind of move things around and shuffle stuff around. So this is just some trellis netting that you can buy in the package, and I'll leave links to all this stuff that I have that I use, my affiliate links for Amazon. And if you choose to use that, thank you very much for supporting the channel. But you just tie it onto these right here, real easy to do. You just tie it onto the pipes, and then you can just go ahead and train your vines right up here. So I'm gonna be going ahead and taking my other one I have over here, and I'm gonna be putting it where the tomato plants go, what we just got done doing, and I'll be trellising those up too. That's all part of the square foot gardening system, is actually be able to grow vertically, which saves in a lot of space and is able to manage more that way. So I highly recommend doing something like this. If you're gonna be doing a small area or square foot gardening like this, even if you're just doing in-ground growing too, you can just take these and just plug them right into the ground. If you want to, you can use rebar down at the end, and then just actually have the rebar pushed into the ground, and you can really slide these on and off and move them around. I just choose to take them and just push them into the ground because I have my ground's soft enough I can do that. Put all my 200 pounds of weight into it, you know, and it works out real good, and it's real stable. It hasn't failed me yet, and I've been using them for years, so I'm real happy with them. Also talking about pest control. So the best way to pest control is preventative measures. I actually have some netting domes that actually I purchased for these beds that are gonna be able to go over the top of them and put bug netting over the top of the whole thing, so it helps to keep the aphids and everything out of the garden. I'll be doing a video on those, and I'll show you those when I get them in. That's gonna be #1 defense basically right there. And that's gonna help probably prevent maybe about 90% of the infection right there. If you have to use some sprays or something like that, I highly recommend using like an organic type, like maybe a safer brand spray for like aphids, depending on what you have. I usually don't have a problem here in Southern Oregon where I'm at with my tomato plants or even my cucumbers so much. I haven't had a lot of problem with zucchinis, with the squash bugs basically. I really kind of have a bad problem. That and maybe some ants. But I'm actually pretty lucky here. I don't really have too many pests that I have to deal with. I've had some aphids, and again, with insecticide soap like that, you can use it, or you just blast them off with a hose, and it's really easy to get rid of aphids. But using a netting is going to be #1. Also, you can use, what I'm going to be doing in these beds is I'm going to be planting marigolds and basil. So the basil for tomato plants is supposed to enhance the flavor, I guess, of the tomato plants, the tomato itself. The marigolds also repel like nematodes, aphids, other type of pests as well, and it helps to bring in like pollinators and things and good bugs into your garden. So I'm doing a lot of that this year, and we'll be seeing how that goes. But yeah, I'll be definitely planting some of those in between those squares where I actually have my tomatoes here, and maybe in front around the plants to kind of help protect them, you know, and see if that makes a difference or not. But like I said, I don't have much of a problem with my tomato plants or the cucumbers around here. You know, all this work planting, waiting, it reminds me of 1 Corinthians 3:6. It says, I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. You know, we can plant perfectly, we can water faithfully, we can protect constantly, but only God brings the growth. Sometimes the soil looks empty, but underground, things are happening quietly, powerfully on His time. Just like in life, growth takes faith and patience. You don't always see the fruit right away, but trust the process, trust the one who's designed it, you know. If this has helped you, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment down below what you're growing or how God's growing something in you this season. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching the Armor of God Gardening, and God bless you and your family, and have a great day.